Red Hat provides a single set of software products that support both the enterprise and telco markets. So what is Red Hat's focus in the telecom market for open source technologies? We have here Red Hat's SDN and NFV community strategist to answer that very question. Dave Neary, thanks for being with us again.
Pleasure to be here.
So I mentioned in the introduction about Red Hat's really focus and role in the open source space for the telecom market. What is that?
So we're an OpenStack vendor, and we're focused on providing OpenStack to telcos as an NFV platform. And one of the things that's important to us is it was important to us to make sure that we don't have a carrier grade fork of OpenStack. We've been working very hard to understand carrier requirements and ensure that OpenStack itself is carrier grade.
So one of the mantras, or the mantra here, is upstream first. What is upstream first?
So the upstream of a project is the source, right? So you can think of source code flowing from the developer that writes the code to the project that distributes that code and releases it to the products and services that build on top of that open source project. And it's one of the core values of Red Hat is to work directly in the open source projects to influence the direction of those projects. And if you look at some of the projects that have been very, very successful in the open source world, like the Linux kernel, it's amazing really that what began as a hobby project on 386 architecture has become this all-encompassing operating system that goes from the very smallest use cases in embedded software all the way up to supercomputers, mobile platforms, and now NFV platforms. So we have a similar goal with OpenStack. We want to make sure that OpenStack can solve both the enterprise use cases and the telecommunications use cases.
Someone's description of NFV and really the support that Red Hat's Linux Foundation gives to NFV is simplifying the deployment of business applications. Is that the most simplified way of describing what you guys do?
Well, certainly there's a confluence of things in the industry that have enabled this move to this new architecture. One is the adoption of automation for the automation of the deployment of applications. The enormous adoption of DevOps, right? The tightening the feedback loop between developer and operations, so that you're developing and deploying applications in smaller batch sizes and doing so with a lot of monitoring, a situational awareness of what's going on in your platform. And all of those movements, the DevOps movement, the move to cloud, and the move to automation, all of those tools are all open source. So I don't know if it's completely simplifying the deployment of business applications, but it's certainly simplifying their deployment and management at scale, and that's what's important in telco.
Now, as you know, Linux container technologies providing a really significant impact in vertical industries, fostering a scalability, agility, and so forth. Can you give us an example of how that comes to be?
So containers are a really interesting deployment technology. It's all about isolation, process isolation. You have multiple containers. It can be very, very dense on a single server, all sharing the same operating system kernel. And so what that enables you to do is it enables you to bring up very, very quickly services and to manage those services across multiple hosts quite easily. With modern deployment and automation tools. And so I think there's certainly a place for container technology in NFV, although it's early days yet for NFV. But certainly there are workloads where the ability to run very densely packed applications, which are each separated and managed independently on the same host is going to be very, very useful.
There's a number of emerging segments like IP multimedia subsystems, IPTV, voice over IP. Are these ideal candidates to be deployed on an open platform?
I would say there are very few telco applications that are not ready to be deployed on an open platform now. But certainly IMS, IPTV, and VoIP systems, session border controller, and the enhanced packet core, the EPC service, those are the ones that we see the most demand from telcos to move to NFV. They're the services that really provide the core of what we think of as telco services, voice and data services, and mobility access. And yes, I think those are certainly. There is no reason why you cannot deploy those to an open platform. I think those are the top priorities for an NFV project like OPNFV.
So in doing research for segments like this over the last couple of years, I do go to the Red Hat website, and one thing I've noticed about the site, and this is very interesting, you have your Red Hat ecosystem somewhere on your homepage, and every time I go back to it, it keeps growing, right? So does open source and multi-vendor solutions allow you to grow those partnerships? Is that what's happening?
You need a partner to deploy successfully an open source solution. Red Hat has been traditionally a good partner to ISVs who want to deploy with confidence on a platform that's stable, that's well maintained, where you're sure that you're going to where you get security updates in a timely manner, and where you've got a good partner when you've got a problem with the platform who can fix those problems right across the platform. And it's one of the core values that Red Hat brings, specifically in the NFV space, is that we have developers on all of the open source projects that make up that NFV platform, which allows us to be very reactive. So I think we have a unique value proposition in that sense for partners, and it's not surprising that we're growing that ecosystem.
Well, I think an open source community for the telecom market probably wasn't an easy thing to do. I'm sure that was challenging, not too far back.
Well, we're not going to take complete credit for it.
Absolutely. I was just going to say Red Hat's leading the charge there, so that's great. Dave, as always, thanks for giving us your time, and I'm sure we'll talk to you very soon.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.